Dear Bungie, hello. You don't know me, but I know you. I know you very well. I've been playing your game for 6 years, back from Destiny 1 into Destiny 2. Recently, there's been, well, safe to say a lot of debate and drama and discussion, to put it lightly, about the state of your game. And that's honestly a little bit terrifying. We've seen a lot of people who are big supporters of the game just straight up leave. We've seen people who are generally pretty positive and optimistic have a very uh, harsh opinion of your game. And it's scary because I love the game and I want to see it do well. Hell, the channel who we've recently reached 7K with, as it's kind of built on this game. It's built on its success. And it seems like we are taking as many steps forward as we're taking back. It seems like we are almost self-sabotaging to almost seem to maintain this general air of incomplete or not quite balanced or not quite polished. And it's frustrating. So I don't know what the solution is, but I just know that there's a few things that players have listed as things they want to see fixed. A lot of people have already talked about things like loot incentives and certain mechanics and matchmaking and such, but I want to present a few things that have come from our own community, things that have come from myself, things that have been bugging me as just general quality of life things I would love to see fixed. And this is stuff that my community has listed as well. So, Bungie, if you're listening, let us know, because one of the biggest things we're struggling with right now is that we feel like we're screaming into the void. It feels like no matter how many people in the community have the same voice, have the same opinion, nothing will happen unless it directly or in some fashion increases your numbers in some regard. Or if it's so clearly obvious that even somebody who's at the very tippity tip at the top can see, oh yeah, this is a problem. I don't plan on talking about stasis because I think that that's been it's been exhausted. A lot of people have said what they feel about stasis, and I think a lot of people have some really good opinions on it. Rather, I want to talk about the smaller stuff, the stuff that would just make the game feel better, stuff that would just be obvious steps forward. I hope this isn't too long-winded, and I hope that this gets the message across without being too preachy. I'm gonna go through some weird stuff, so I hope this isn't too much. I want to start from the top. Something that players have been asking for a while, and I legitimately don't understand why this doesn't exist. It exists in Destiny 1, and that's auto-deleting blues. Rare gear. Nobody uses it. Once you reach the max level, there's no reason to hold on to it anymore. I don't understand why we don't have an option on the subscreen to just say dismantle blues, dismantle rare gear, or rare or lower gear. It's frustrating. Every time I complete a Crucible match, I'll get about 3 of those rare weapons and armor that I'm never, ever going to use. Nor do I need the materials. And for the players who do need the materials, perhaps, dismantling it would just solve that part of the step. I understand that there's some issues involving where, we can't delete a certain amount of things at a certain given period of time because it'll crash the instance or whatever it may be. But Destiny 1 can do it. Why can't Destiny 2 do it? Number 2, I have lovingly called this RAG, or Random Ass Geometry. I love Crucible. It's 95% of the reason I play Destiny. And one of the most frustrating things to me is stubbing my toe on something that's like maybe 2 inches tall and being unable to strafe around a corner or throwing off my jump. I don't understand why we don't smooth out some of the maps a little bit. I understand it looks good. I get that. But at the end of the day, it kind of ruins the whole competitive experience for me when I'm supposed to be able to round a piece of cover or duck back into cover, and something the size of a postage stamp seems to disallow me from doing so. It's incredibly frustrating. Even if we made those surfaces essentially intangible, where they're still visible, but, our guardians can go through them, something like that, I think would vastly improve the frustrations that can occur within a Crucible game. Number 3, I really hate that I hit the ground too hard and my sights go absolutely everywhere. I don't understand it. My guardian feels like an absolute badass, but then as soon as he gets too high in the air and hits the ground, he feels like a grandpa that has recently had knee surgery. I get that it's supposed to sell the weight and the height of the jump, but for competitive experiences, especially with certain jump kits, like blank or high jump, it renders them near unusable outside of being very, very skilled with them. It just doesn't make sense to me. I get selling the whole lift and weight and the impact of the whole jump experience would be good, but I think we could tone that down by a significant margin. Number 4, sunsetting weapons again. I have seen plenty of people talk about this, and we've talked about this in TDM ourselves, but one of the things that's frustrating to me is that I can get a weapon that I have already had, but it's sunset. The most recent example is the Trials gear. I can get a really nice Astral Horizon, but it's going to be sunset in a few seasons, and then there's just another Astral Horizon that doesn't get sunset in a few seasons. I don't understand it. Why do I have to re-grind something that I already have? It's not fun. It doesn't feel engaging. It just feels like I'm just being treated like some kind of servant rather than a fan of the game. It doesn't feel like my time's being respected at all. Next up on my list is mercy rolling. I like the mercy rolling system as it was, where if the enemy reached past a certain point, it wouldn't trigger the mercy roll system anymore, and then we can play the game. I understand the reasoning behind the current mercy system because there's going to be places in the game where they're not going to be able to come back no matter what they do, even if it's past 30 to 90 in something like Control. But it's frustrating when we're having a good game, just legitimately having a good game, and we get cut short. Shax calls it. It's not fun. It's, in fact, the opposite of fun. I spend a lot of my time in orbit if I've got a decent team with me. Even if I'm just playing solo, if I'm just having a good game, I essentially get told, hey, no more of that. You're not allowed to do that anymore. I don't get it. People can leave the game, right? If they're not having a good time. So who are we sparing? In fact, most of the people do end up leaving the game. And I don't understand. In fact, there's even times when I feel like I could probably take this game back if I just make a few key decisions or a few key kills here and there, and the game says, actually, no, you're not allowed to come back from this. It's frustrating. Next up on the list is Adept Weapons. I'm not going to say anything unique here, but I might as well just throw my 2 cents on the matter. Adept Weapons are one of the biggest disappointments in Destiny. They were promised to be something that was unique and special, but at the end of the day, it is coming back to the old Skinner box of you gotta press the button and hope you get what you're looking for. I would love to see these just have a static roll. Honestly, like just a static roll. A lot of people have proposed the same mechanic that's seen to the raid or the lure, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but if that proves to be too difficult, if that requires too much programming, then just drop a really good roll. And the thing is, I know you know what that roll is. Look at the Fellwinter's Lie. You knew that you were creating a god-tier PvP shotgun. You can do that with this other weaponry. It doesn't even have to be like the most perfect roll either. It can have some variance and make it slightly worse than, say, some of the other stuff. So it makes it a little bit more appealing to chase after the really, really perfect roll, the 10-star roll. I don't think I need to talk much more about that, though. A lot of people already have. Next up, I want to see vendor weapons. I have literally 20,000 or more tokens, and I'm sure there's players who have been hoarding tokens even more than I have for Crucible, and I've got nothing to spend them on. The World Loot Pool idea was interesting at first, but now we're at a place where it just is an exercise in exhaustion. It doesn't make sense for me to drop that many tokens in because I'm probably going to be spending the majority of my time holding the Dismantle button. It's frustrating. I would love to see it where I could purchase a decently roll. It doesn't even need to be an absolutely awesome roll. Just a solid roll, a 7 out of 10 roll from my vendors for an increased price. Maybe like 50 Shax tokens for a really nice weapon. Or maybe 100 Shax tokens for some decent armor. And that's the other thing. Talking about armor. Can Crucible reward some decent armor? Iron Banner does. Why doesn't things like the Trials of Osiris? Can we have like Adept armor? That would be kind of interesting. That would be kind of neat. Anyway. Next up, Unobtainable Loot. Again, a lot of people have said something similar to this, but again, just my 2 cents on the matter. I don't understand it. I don't understand why we would create something like the Fellwinter's Lie, which you knew was going to be an obviously awesome shotgun, and then just completely say no to any new players or veteran players who were just coming back who were trying to get their hands on the weapon. Why wasn't this a priority in the kiosk? Why was this something that is just now being got to, and by the time they end up getting their hands on it, it's probably going to be sunset? I don't understand it. You know what you're doing. You know that you can create this stuff. Why isn't this stuff higher on the priority list? Why is something like the Cold Front with Dragonfly more of a priority than things like Stasis right now? Anyway. Next up, new game modes. Crucible has been felt like it's just been forgotten about, neglected, starved, and then kicked. We lost a bunch of maps, we lost a bunch of game modes, and we gained nothing in return. Crucible players all around have been on the short end of the stick of this expansion. We haven't received really anything that has made our experience better. PvE players got their stuff, and that's great. I'm not taking away from the PvE players, but why do we have to suffer? I don't understand why the majority of the people who engage with this channel in particular are PvP players. And I'm sure there's a large portion of other player bases from other channels that engage pretty much for PvP. And it just feels like we're just not appreciated. It feels like you're treating us like we're just going to come back no matter what. It feels like as long as the numbers are decent, you don't care. And the thing is, Bungie, the numbers are starting to reflect how we feel. People are leaving. People are done. I've even considered, what if I did a video that wasn't Destiny related, but I just don't know how my audience would react. I just feel like I built this, it's almost like a sunk cost fallacy. I put so much time and effort into creating Destiny content that if I feel like I stray away from it too much, that, I'm going to drop a few subs. But I don't know. I would rather just be able to play this game, but don't force our hands, Bungie. Don't make it where the game's just unbearable to play. I still love the game. But give us something new. Give us something. Throw us some kind of bone. Give us that carrot on the stick. Something. New game modes. New maps. And lastly, I think that there's a handful of mods that need to be reworked. Things like Icarus Grip, Traction, Fastball, Celerity on, Adept Weapons. A lot of stuff that people have already talked about. But above everything else, I want to feel like we're being heard. I want to feel like what we are saying, what we're putting out, is being heard. I would love to see some type of video from the devs themselves just answering common questions or addressing issues that are bubbling up. Because without any communication back and forth, it just feels like you don't care. It just feels like no matter what happens, at the end of the day, you're sitting along some of the top spots among other games, especially for player retention, and you just don't care. As long as the money's coming in, you just don't care. And I want to give you the benefit of the doubt and say that that's not the case, but it's becoming harder and harder to give you that benefit of the doubt. It's becoming easier and easier to give in to the naysayers in the background saying, Destiny sucks, they don't care about you, go play a new game. Help us prove them wrong? Maybe? Anyway, I hope this wasn't too negative. I don't know. I just want to have fun in the game again. I don't want to turn on the game and have it feel like a chore. I want to feel revitalized. I want to feel rewarded. I want to feel like I'm a part of a community. I want to feel like I'm being listened to. I just want to have fun again. It's not to say that there hasn't been times in the past where it wasn't fun either, but now above everything else, it's rough. It's really rough. Just let us know we're listening. Just let us know that there's something out there that you're taking to heart, because it's starting to hurt a little bit. And even the super fans will only put up with it for so long. Anyway.